Welcome to Market Update. It's the end of January. Actually, it's already the 2nd of February, and already the year is starting to look pretty bad. Maybe the cycle is over. Maybe crypto bull market is over. Maybe there is no more cycle theory. I have a thesis on this. We can discuss it. Or maybe this is just a blip on the radar and we will get a final blow of top above 100K. So in this market update, we'll go over the scenarios. We'll plan out what we gotta do. I'll talk about a little bit my strategies, my regrets, things that I believe I did relatively good. And yeah, I hope everybody here will come up with a plan by the end of it, and we'll be ready to tackle whatever is happening on the market. So first of all, what's going on right now? Because we're selling off pretty hard since Friday. And I think, the reason is this, the tariffs that Trump announced, quite significant, 25% for Mexico and Canada and 10% for China. And this is so obviously scaring off the markets. The worst part is that we don't know what's going to happen. And we don't know how the regular markets will react in the coming days, weeks. I think this will be a developing story. I'm by far not a macro expert. I'm not going to try and guess, what's going to happen, if this is going to be just a scare and they're going to reach some kind of settlement and there will be no tariffs in place, or if this will be bullish or bearish in general. But right now, the signals are clear, the markets are scared, and we're dumping. Simple as that. And honestly, whatever is in the news, you can clearly see it in the chart. And if we zoom out, let's go on the monthly actually. First of all, you can see on the monthly that whatever is happening, although honestly, even like by my own judgment and sentiment and my internal feelings, honestly, that it feels like really bearish. And yet, when you zoom out, we're at a freaking 100K. We just broke down from 100K. And currently we're trading at $97,000 per Bitcoin. Let's not forget this. And on the monthly, there's nothing really that it need to be worried about. In general, if we keep this level here, so this is around 90K, I think it's a good round number that we can have as a lights out level. Let's put it this way. If we start seeing monthly closes below this, but otherwise, we've just had a massive expansion, even like from this last leg from 60K, we had a massive expansion to 105, 606K, and now we're just consolidating. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like this again, a big chunk of consolidation, and then maybe we'll see if we develop further to the bullish side or to the bearish. That depends obviously on many other factors. But honestly, one thing stands out very clearly to me, and that is the massive correlation we have with stocks currently. And in general, Bitcoin has been trading quite like in the boring times when there's no major catalyst, like when Trump got elected, or before that, the ETF. This run was it with the ETF. Like we've been trading very correlated with the stock market. And I believe, and I'm gonna start with this before going on with the Bitcoin scenarios for the future. But I believe like the cycle theory should be thrown out of the window, honestly. I'm just gonna do a quick overview, but I remember this cycle, like the last cycle, 21 cycle. Everybody thought that, we're gonna have another major leg up, and we faked out here. Outs massively pumped, great, but this here had nothing like in common with this cycle right here. Although outs pumped hard, Bitcoin had a blow off top. It really got very, very massive trend, accelerated very quickly. But in general, this wasn't very, similar, I would argue, to this cycle. This was quite different, and everybody was bullish here on the second leg up, and we just didn't break out of it. And then even if we talk about the capitulations and consolidations, you could see that they also played out quite differently, and that I mean dramatically different. Obviously, we had each had its own catalysts, but you can see here we had much longer consolidation here in the capitulation phase. Here we had pretty much just 1 month, and then we started trending upwards. And then obviously we had massive catalysts surrounding the ETF. And I think this is where everything pretty much changed. And not only this, like the market cap of this thing is growing significantly and has grown. And could it go straight up to the right, like the stock market? Yeah, quite probably. But I believe the people like myself that has been trading, like there's a cycle and it plays the same way. So first Bitcoin runs, then Ethereum runs, then altcoin run. All these things I believe are right now not the best way to trade the markets. And it has been proven in the last year or so. Altcoins have their pumps, but they're very like narrative based, and it's not like a widespread market pump that everyone's expecting. And don't even get me starting on Ethereum, because Ethereum has been significantly underperforming. And you could see comparison like from previous cycles. Yes, but Ethereum did this or that when Bitcoin did that on that. And we'll always try to find some kind of relatedness into the left of the chart in the history. However, I believe we're wildly deviating from any previous instance, because technically this should have been the massive bull run for altcoins right here. Because like the biggest argument that people were saying right here, because my theory was that even on this leg up, like from 30, 50 to like 70, this would have been the time for alts to start accelerating. Even Ethereum, they didn't. It was Bitcoin driven. And then, we consolidated all-time high. And as I said, the biggest argument here was, oh yes, but altcoins and Ethereum run after Bitcoin has made new all-time highs and really has accelerated. Yeah, and we did that. And there was another, massive rally here. But again, it was driven by the narrative of Trump. And altcoins didn't perform that well, except for the narrative-based one. Like sometimes AI was pumping, sometimes meme coins were pumping, and it was nothing like previous cycles. And it couldn't be because there are just so many narratives now and so many coins. It's impossible to track this. There's a new narrative every week, and every coin could be its own narrative because people are like, okay, XRP is pumping. What's in the XRP ecosystem? Let me go browse there and find those shit coins, and that dilutes everything. And I think all the theories of this happened before, now it's going to happen the same again. At some point, it's a recipe for disaster. For me personally, it has already been a recipe for disaster just because, I've been back holding stuff and trading altcoins for a year and I've been losing money. Simple as that, because I was like, yes, I will hold this and it will go up because now is the time for them to go up. Now we're like, it's really there. Now I can see it. It's going to pump. And they don't. They just don't. So it's a very different environment. And even when it comes to Ethereum, for example, it's got its own ETF. It's got all the regulations lifted pretty much with Trump coming. So all the narratives are there for Ethereum to pump, and yet it's not pumping. It's not moving in the right direction. Yes, maybe very, very high time frame. Yes, it's some copium type of play that, technically we're still good structure, but, you know, it hasn't been performing well. Solana as well. Solana had a massive run, probably the biggest winner, driven mostly by the meme coins and the shit coins that were going on in Solana. But now it's also starting to stall, and you can see that it's been kind of struggling, in the past 3 or 4 months. Although we made a new all-time high here, but you can see the close here. It doesn't look pretty. We're pretty much SFPing the all-time high, which you don't really want to see. And yes, it could drag on for some time and then break out. But again, even if this happens, I still think this doesn't match the theory of the cycles, even time-wise. Like, yes, this should be the most bullish year, and it could still be, but it should have already start playing out, because Bitcoin is already at $100,000, guys. So, um, it's a very different environment. It's extremely PvP, and most importantly, the people that are buying Bitcoin, they're mostly not interested in shitcoins. And that's on top. Okay, we can have bullish catalysts. We can have definitely, movement in the altcoin space. Maybe stuff like Ondo, for example, because it's BlackRock related, real world assets. Long term, maybe this is a very valuable project, and so on and so on. But again, it just doesn't fit the narrative of the 4-year bull cycles in crypto. It's a different type of environment, and this requires a different type of brain and playing. And again, going back to the basics, it's all within the charts. So let's get back to the charts and let's see what the plans are and what we should be doing on Bitcoin front, Ethereum, Solana, and pretty much all the other coins out there. Because I think there are plays and there will be a lot of plays. We just need to kind of change the way we think of, yes, I'm gonna buy X, or I'm just gonna buy Ethereum, and at some point it will pump, or I will buy Bitcoin and in 5 years it will go up. Sure, if that's the strategy, sure. But if you're more active and you want to extract value sooner than 10 years from the market, it needs to be changed, the way to trade and to think. And going back to the charts, we did the monthly, but go jump into the weekly. Again, the picture currently looks a little bit more bearish than I would ideally want us to be. Why is that? So first of all, we had a retest here. This was in December, so end of the year. We sold off and we created this kind of range between 100 and 90K, I would say. We wicked down a few times. We tested again the top of the range here in mid of January. And then we made again an SFP with a new all-time high just a few weeks ago. This was last week. So last week we were trading above all-time high, and everybody was like, "Yeah, this is it. We're going to the moon. It's super bullish." And obviously we faked out, and worst even that we retested this week. We retested, and now technically we're selling off below 100K. So in the past week or so, I was cleaning up a lot of my altcoin positions. Honestly, I should have closed more. I still have some shitters that are underperforming massively, but now they're really down. So I need to reevaluate. We'll see in the coming days. But I did gain quite a bit of cash in the portfolio. I'm ready to do something drastic with Ethereum, but we're going to discuss it in a bit. And now, as you can see on the chart, it still doesn't look terrible on the daily, because we could go back down to the range and break down. But still, we broke 100K, which we tested a few times, which is not a great indicator. The news are, not very great for crypto in general and for the markets. And I think right now where we are, it's quite plausible if the bad news continues this week, we could go test the range lows. And I think this is really the moment of truth, and the moment of kind of make or break, because we already tested quite a few times this range, and I could see us easily trading below. It doesn't mean we're gonna, sell down to 70. We could, but it's not like I'm expecting this to happen right away. But going back to the range and starting to close below it definitely all means that we'll have not as great as a year in front of us as we hope for, maybe. That's really, really the moment here that we're looking for. What could spell even more trouble is if we get a bounce, and then we get a close somewhere here. If we get a close, this will be like the lowest close, even below these wicks. And that's on the daily. So today it's, I think, quite crucial where we're going to close, although it's on a Sunday and obviously the volume is quite down. But I think it's still significant close. And if we get some kind of a bounce, either from here or from the bottom of the range, and we don't reclaim 100K, I think, okay, this will be another signal for us to start positioning a little bit more passively. And this is, I think, quite likely right now. We need to consider that either we go to the range low or we retest 100K and we don't reclaim it right away, unless obviously the tariffs go off and that's also, all those bullish things that could happen, at least temporary. But we could also just go to the range low and start breaking down, and then maybe retest this now as resistance around 90K. So these are a couple of bearish scenarios that I'm looking at. And what worries me in general, what started worrying me up here is that every little thing is starting to really affect the markets. Like the DeepSeek thing, was it? I think it was this week here. Uh, so DeepSeek in theory should be bullish, and it's not something that is directly related to crypto. Yet the crypto market sold off very aggressively, and then people kind of digested it, and obviously we reclaimed 100K. But then now something again that it's in the news that looks scary. It's happening during the weekend, and it's like again very similar story. We're starting to puke aggressively, and we'll be dependent on the news cycle and what Trump decides to do, and it will be quite volatile. So all of these things are not great, in my opinion, for a healthy bull trend. Yes, you could hear people, yeah, but in previous cycles we had this and that sell off with 50 or 80 or 60% down, and then we rallied massively and so on. So yeah, it could happen. I'm not saying that it won't happen, and we're going to look at those cases as well. But I'm just looking at the charts, and it's just looking like we're going to chop a lot of people to death, and potentially we could go lower. But like even the better scenario here is to just chop and do nothing. Because again, zooming out, unless we get below like 90K, I think we're still relatively good. Although altcoins will suffer dramatically from what's happening here on Bitcoin. So yeah, what's happening if this plays out? Obviously, I will just monitor the charts. I will probably reduce my exposure to alts even more. I'm ready to honestly cut like all the rest of my alts without a doubt. Yeah, I'll be losing quite a bit of money on these, but that's a risk I decided to take a while back. And obviously, it's not playing out. But for me, in my book, it's a risk that I should take. For example, if you're losing, let's just do it somewhere here. If you're planning to lose 20% on something to potentially make 5 or 6x, which was the theory originally. That's I'm not gonna even try to pull the whole thing, but it makes sense to risk this type of money to potentially make those massive gains. Obviously, it's not playing out. It doesn't mean that there will be no more opportunities in the future, but obviously, I need to manage the risk here and not be stupid and not just hope that we're going to get the bull run of altcoins and altcoin season that everybody's hoping and so on. So it's just foolish right now to think this. And unfortunately, for me personally, it took me quite a bit of time to be okay with this and to realize that I haven't been performing well enough for altcoins, and making money there. So these are the more bearish scenarios, more like neutral if we keep chopping here in this range. However, there's a case where we have something like this. So let's say tomorrow Trump decides that there's no issue with tariffs. They get like into the room with the Chinese or whatever Canadian, and we just so let's see on the weekly. We close this week. We close this week like this, and then next week we have something like this, and we retrace the move fully, and we're back above 100K, and we're back testing all-time highs. I think that's quite plausible as well, because even on the weekly, although we are like at the lower part now of the range, you still like this is still not a bearish chart. There are the signals like these wicks, these SFPs here. I think are the first signals. And if you look at the weekly closes, it doesn't look great, but still we don't have a lower low here. We still are just chopping. So just one candle and this could change completely, and it's quite plausible with the volatility that we are going to see in the coming days and weeks, that this could happen. And the best part is that if this happens, it's very clear where the levels are. So for me, first is like reclaim of 100K. You could argue that this could be a nice long here, and obviously if we get to the bottom of the range before we go up, this I think is also a decent buy, especially if you're managing your risks. Oops, not this one, sorry. Let's say somewhere in the 90s and maybe a stop loss somewhere around here below 88, maybe even below these levels here around 87, 6, and targeting even all-time highs. This is still a decent trade. It's still a decent trade if they're obviously the right catalyst for this. And of course, if you want to play out on the safe side, you might wait just for a close on the daily above this level around 106, so 106,000. I think this will be also good for a long setup on a breakout, although you'll be getting obviously a lot worse entry. But again, this is a little bit more safe when it comes to like let this play out, don't act on the range, and maybe you get something like this in here. See, we chop, 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 chop. We got here. We tested once this level around 72K, previous all-time high. We retraced and then we send off. And here the risk to reward was also quite good. So there was like 5% risk to potentially make like 45%, which is decent. And I could see this playing out again because yes, we've tested this area around 92 quite often, but also same with the all-time high around 106. So that's Bitcoin. When it comes to Ethereum, I did take a bit more Ethereum somewhere. Let's just go to the daily, it's clear. Somewhere in this area around 3,200, something like this. But now, as you can see, this thing is selling off hard and it's breaking a key level like it's below 3K right now. And this descending line, obviously we failed to break it. This happened just when on the day, I remember this was a Friday. I was like, fuck yeah. Finally, this thing is doing something. Bitcoin was up just 1%. This was up like 5, 6% on the day. And it looked like it's going to break this line. I'm like, perfect. If it closes here and retraces me, I might add to my position, confirm this as a higher low here. And then Trump came out, said something about tariffs, and we fucking puked. And again, we're trading below this key level, and probably we're going to get a close below it for first time in a very, very long time. So since November. Doesn't look great, honestly. Honestly, if we have a little bit of a retrace on this, I'm considering like tomorrow or this week selling all of my Ethereum. I still haven't closed this exposure here, but I'm seriously considering, capitulating in a way on my Ethereum. It won't be exactly capitulating because I still bought it earlier. I don't even remember where my buys were, but I have some buys from the low twos somewhere here. I gotta double check, but it's been so long that I haven't even looked at it. So I'll still make some money on Ethereum, but honestly, it's been just very, very painful. And obviously, it's lost a lot of money against Bitcoin. If I had just held Bitcoin, it would have been so much better. But it doesn't look great right now. What could be potential buy targets are somewhere in this area, like 2.6, 2.4, maybe in here if we get in here, and that's not too far away from here. And I'm like realizing that if we get this close, there could be another red candle tomorrow, and we get there in a hurry, and I'm not able to exit my Ethereum at all, and that's okay. It's I've accepted that risk. We'll see how this plays out a little bit. Maybe I'll just de-risk a bit and then see what happens. But technically, like even on the lower time frames, this is a clean breakdown of structure. Maybe we get a bit of a retrace here to retest 3K, or maybe just we reclaim it. We'll see. But it should be followed as a signal to cut if you consider this level important on Ethereum, and I personally do. And obviously, if we reclaim it, maybe we do something like this. Maybe, as I said, things don't get that bad. If we reclaim 3K, I think that's also a good long with something like this. If, let's say, this is the low or somewhere in this area, target this area around 4K, again, not a bad trade. So it doesn't mean that you gotta be withstanding all of the beating in this section here. If we get here or not, it doesn't really matter. It's honestly, um, it's one thing about the money, but also the mental side of just, dragging along while waiting for something and praying for something to happen. It's so much easier to have a clean setup, clean plan, like the one I just laid out, and follow the rules. That's, I think, the most important thing. But if it gets to this zone, I think it's still, even for a bounce, not a terrible buy, because even on the weekly, you can see this cluster here. It's quite significant. It's quite a big area, obviously, so maybe you need to wait for some confirmation on the lower time frames. But I think it's a important area where we could bounce before deciding whatever is going to happen to Ethereum after that. Because there could be some bullish catalysts for Ethereum. And one of my personal, thoughts was here that, okay, everyone's getting too bearish on Ethereum, me as well. People are capitulating. People are saying it's not going to run. And I thought that it's a good long opportunity close to invalidation, but now obviously the trade is starting to get invalidated unless we get a good close here on the daily. Maybe we still have a few hours, like 4.5 hours from shooting. So let's see how this plays out. So that's Ethereum. On Solana, Solana is looking better obviously on the daily, because we were much higher, but again, this area of the all-time high, very nasty SFPs, and now we were supposed to at least pause in this area, but honestly, I don't think this is a great support level. Like on the weekly, it doesn't even exist. So I would see Solana going somewhere in the 180 to 200s, because 200 doesn't really like scream to me support, but it's a round number, emotional number. So I could very well see us bouncing from here, at least temporarily. But again, on the daily, this has shifted structure. Like here, we had a high, obviously. We didn't really have a close, or let's say we did above this. We had this correction, lower high here on the daily, now lower low compared to this one, and now obviously a brand new lower low here. But what would really get me concerned is starting to get close below 180. So I think that's the line in the sand for Solana, and on the weekly as well. There's been quite a bit of touches around this area that should play as support, and if not, obviously maybe we'll go a little bit lower to like 150, 160 area. So I'm not, I don't think I'll be buying Solana if we get like a washout, just because for me personally, like the Bitcoin and Ethereum levels are kind of cleaner. But yeah, you have a plan also for Solana. When it comes to the rest, so I have a few more backs like Tia, Parcel, Magic Eden. I was supposed to close Palm, but honestly, I forgot about it, because the weekend was for family. I was like, okay, I'll evaluate this later in the week or early next week. And obviously we, sold off in a hurry. And I had this area marked out very clean. Once we broke it, now we accelerated. So maybe I'll wait for a bounce here. This is a really tiny position for me, so I'm not worried. I'm still considering cutting even Jupiter, although it's been there has been bullish catalyst here on this one, but ZK, also maybe for after a bounce, we'll see. But these are the few ones. Hype is one of the last trades that I still hold, like from the recent ones. But this one is still in the range, so I might just keep it. But I cut EOS, and this was very obvious. Like everything I discussed, you could very easily see it on the chart, because it's just. Let me just go on the 4-hour chart. I want to show you something. So right here, I took the trade somewhere in here, and my thesis was, okay, this is a key support level. We've held it before, and I'm just going to wait for the bounce, and that's what we did here. So we had a bounce, so we broke structure to the bullish side. We reversed pretty much higher high here on this is the 4-hour, but it was also this on the 1-hour. And then I was buying in this area and just waiting for this to either break down or break up. And it was obviously an area of interest, and I was like, okay, this will be the make or break moment. And then we started breaking this on a Sunday, breaking down, and I was like, okay, well, guess we're not gonna play this. And right at the same time, like just this happened within an hour or so, it just massively broke out because there were so many people shorting this and it wasn't that much liquidity going on. And we shot up. I didn't take profit because this was really quick. I wasn't on the computer. And then, of course, if we play it, uh, where's the play? Obviously right away we just we just sold off again, very like wiki on both sides. We just sold off and now we're trading below. I was like, okay, fuck this. This is not this market's not gonna play ball. Same thing pretty much with this ink. Very telling on the market. It was like, okay, this level's holding, we're breaking out, I'm taking this mid-range breakout. Deep sig thing happened here. We puked. Back to the range low. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna buy here because I'm seeing a setup close to invalidation. We'll double down again. We broke down. It's yeah, it just shows you like how shitty the market is trading. It's just not an environment to be risk on right now. And I'm happy that I didn't take more risk and I cut some of my losers earlier in the week because it's just not going to happen. And when it comes to outs, and I think that's very important because we still like hope or pray or whatever you want to say it, think that they will come back. And you can argue that you can choose a token, but let's just do it on Super here on Superverse. You might say, okay, this could come back and make new all-time highs and really go for a bull run that everyone's hoping. That is fine, but still you're gonna see the patterns and emerge and the narratives emerge. So it will be like, okay, maybe we reverse here. Maybe we get to this level and it's oversold after several weeks of downtrend. Maybe you want to buy it for a bounce, sure. Or even like reclaim this like 140 level because there was a lot of action here on the daily 150 140 level, and then find a bullish setup here, continuation setup, or like even desync, reclaim this range again, or buy it at the bottom of the range with sentiment shifting, or even wait for an all-time high breakout. There are so many setups on if we get like a bullish confirmation on the trend, even on hyper liquid. Like if this range holds and if we break above again about like 25, you could argue like, okay, now I can get more risk on because now this is showing more signs of strength. So you don't need to rush in. But honestly, right now, all the like altcoin charts I'm looking at are looking like shit. So it doesn't look great. And I would strongly advise to just trade the charts right now. I see a question in the chat for Earn Finance. Uh, Let me check. I think it's not a great looking chart right now, but okay. Is it an abandoned project? I don't know, man. But just looking at this, it just looks like shit. Although it had a spring here, like it did bump a bit, but this is not a like there charts that look better than this one, definitely. Um, and this is what like the whole point of it. Like you could get faked out on the bullish setups, and that's fine. That's fine. You could, set your risk and so on and take the trade. But don't get stuck on waiting for something to happen with this one. Just be very clear why you're trading this. And there are several reasons why you should be trading it. One is mark key level. So in this case, again, it doesn't matter the token, but in this case, maybe 5,000 here is a key level for you. Then next one is the narrative. Is there a narrative for this coin? Yes or no? Because there will be many charts that will look the same and they will be at key levels. So you want to look at the narrative. There's no narrative. Don't even bother. Trust me. And then is there a clear take profit and stop loss areas? Because although you might be at a key level, the trade might be in the perfect narrative, but thing just pumps and dumps. And the perfect example for this is Fartcoin, because this is like an AI meme, Solana, you name it, all the narratives. And then just look how crazy this trades. It pumps and it dumps, pumps and it dumps. And if you don't take profit because you think this is going to infinity, you are screwed, my friend. You're screwed. And you're not going to have fun while holding through this, because it will be an emotional roller coaster. And I described this in one of my last videos, but you'll be like, let's say you bought it here. Let's say you bought it somewhere here. And you wait and it dumps, you don't sell. Now you see yourself in profit right here. And you don't take profit or you don't cut the position because you're like, yeah, baby, I'm in profit. It's going to go up. Now is the time. And it dumps again. So you're like, no, 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 I'm not selling here. It already pumped. It's going to pump again. And it does here. And you're like, yeah, now this is going to infinity. It has happened before. And I'm not going to sell now like a punk for 50% gain or whatever. And then it dumps again. But then you're stubborn because you're finding a reason. This is a support level. It hasn't broken it. I'm going to hold through it. And then you hold through it. And then you have another massive rally. And you again don't sell because you think it's not high enough. And because you've been saved a few times already by this market. So now you're delusional. You're thinking that it's going to happen again. Maybe it does, but maybe it doesn't. And still, you can trade all those moves. You could take some profit, see if it breaks down this level. If it breaks down below, you cut it, then you enter again. So you need to be a lot more fluid. You don't need to be holding. And I know this is not great for most people and that don't want to be that active in crypto and they just want to park some capital, forget about it and come back in 6 months and, make 5x. I think these times are far behind us, honestly. So I think these moves you need to take advantage and you need to be a lot more nimble by taking profit earlier and even before your target. And same with Ethereum. Like I was in profit for a bit. Maybe I should have just taken profit or cut out this position as I saw this in the news and breaking down. I didn't because this is my bigger invalidation. And as we can see here today, we're bouncing nicely. So maybe it won't be that bad. But as long as we close below 3K, I don't think it's a great look. Maybe we retest. What happens really often here is like we retest it and then we sell off. So I'll be watching for this and potentially closing my Ethereum. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much everything. I just wanted to keep things straight, have a bearish and bullish case, and just trade the chart and the lines and keep it strict. Keep yourself disciplined. Because even if we get a massive, massive bull run this year for many reasons that we could have it, I think there will be very clear signs and very clear trades on the charts that you can take. Again, measure the risk and take profit targets and just be like very serious and strict about this so you don't get burned on the way down. Because that's a way people lose a lot of money and even more money that they originally thought they could lose. That's everything. And I'll see you in the next one.